Well, she does this to me. She does that.
I'll give it.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Planning and Zoning meeting of Chesapeake Beach, March 25, 2026. And I would like to bring this meeting to order. Let's have roll call, please. Let's go ahead and begin down at this end.
Ann Rutke, present, obviously.
Rachel Weaver, also present.
Larry Brown.
And I'm Cindy Greengold.
Mary Sue Greisman, also present.
Christopher Smith, I'm also present.
Madam Clerk, please note that Commissioner Hahn is missing tonight. And now we'd like to go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance. Commissioner Brown, would you like to please go ahead and lead us in the pledge, please? Thank you. Appreciate that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Okay, I'd like to have the approval, please, a motion for the approval of the March 25, 2026 Planning Commission agenda. Do I hear a motion?
To approve.
I'll second it.
Any questions, deletions, et cetera? I see none. Please raise your hand if you approve this agenda. Thank you. Okay, now we go on to the approval of the minutes of February 4th, Planning Commission meeting. Do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the February 4th, 2026
Do I have a
Planning Commission meeting minutes.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any questions or deletions or changes? No, I see none. Okay, let's have a vote. All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you. Next, approval of the minutes of February 4th, closed session. Have a second.
Second, I'll second. I seconded. Made the motion.
I think you made the motion for this last one, right?
He seconded it.
I guess I would.
It doesn't look good, Larry.
We have to rewind. We have to rewind already. Okay. We have a second. We have a motion. We have a second. Any deletions or changes? Okay, yes,
Question, because I wasn't here. So you guys just forgot to approve the minutes last time?
Have enough people.
quorum. We didn't have a quorum. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so I see no changes or issues. Okay, so please say aye if you approve. Okay, thank you. And the next one is approve the minutes of the February 25th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting. Do I have a motion?
Motion approved.
Second?
Second.
And any questions, deletions, changes, et cetera? Okay, I see none. Please say aye if you approve. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Next, we have any public comments. I see nobody in the meeting room tonight. Let's go ahead to old business. We're going to. I did the closed session already.
Sorry.
Yes, that was the one we had confusion over.
I just asked.
Yes, when we had a confusion over who did that. You got everything, did you? Okay, well,
Yeah, so
I'm assuming when we all in favor said aye. And she abstained. Okay, so we had one abstention then. We have that all straightened out. Okay, so now we're going to discuss the land use table. Actually, let's look at the map first. Let's go to that zoning map. And you know what? I can't believe this, but I think I left my map at home. Okay, well, here, let's just. Swing it. Yeah, you share. I know you like to share.
We should.
Yeah,
I know you share everything. That's great. Okay, so Ms. Franklin, what would you like to have to tell us about any changes on this zoning map, the draft revisions, March 18th, 2026?
So I made revisions to the map based on the discussion at the meeting last month. I did go back and just review the meeting to make sure I was making the appropriate changes. So it's more, if you look at the map and you agree that I've captured what everyone was saying at the last meeting, then we can move forward with it. And for those who weren't at the last meeting, what we decided to do was, because the RV2 zone is meant to be more intense than the RV1 zone, we decided to make the RV2 zone in the areas where the more intense uses currently are and where there is the space within the road system to permit the more intense uses. We appropriately applied the floating zone for the residential plan community. And although actually it probably needs to be also on the north side of 260 now that I'm looking at that. And we applied residential medium density zoning to the areas that have housing in those RPCs. So they will now have zoning, underlying zoning.
Okay. Any questions on this map? Commissioner Rutke?
No questions.
Anybody down here have questions?
No question.
What about down here?
One, and I don't know if this is just to help when I'm looking at these things. Is there a possibility, or if you can point me, here's the zoning map that has all the little different areas.
Yes.
And it would be so helpful if there was like a clear paper that had this that we could place over here, which would then help orient better when looking at this.
Before and after.
Like with
An overlay,
neighborhood names,
like
that
a-
kind of
What are
thing.
you, what are you looking, I can't
Well,
see what
this
you're
is-
looking at.
This is an old map, but, or something that
She
states
just wants
this.
this overlay so that you can see what's changed. I think is
Well, not so much what's changed, but also this just shows kind of the designation of the zoning areas. I would like to have something that is clear, so you can see this, but that I can put on top and say, oh, that's where I live. This is here where Ridgefield Station is. Something so that when you
I
look
see.
at it, you're immediately oriented, just
Okay, I see
for
what you're saying.
for referencing. That's just, and if I have to figure out something in my basement, I will. But
Okay, so
You mean the lot lines?
say again?
she means the streets, et cetera, so she can
Right,
identify
yeah.
exactly
Would be easier.
where the lines are delineating,
Yes.
you know, which zones.
Neighborhoods, I think of
Yes.
where I
Mhm.
traverse, not so
Exactly.
much, I don't think about
Especially,
things in color.
I can see up there in Cox Road where you could kind of not see exactly where the light pink merges into the green. I kind of see what you're saying there. If everybody wouldn't mind taking a look at Route 260, you all know where that is cutting over to the west. You can see where 261 is coming north-south, and then, of course, 260 is cutting through Chesapeake Beach Road there. So I'm looking at where the antique store is. You see the pink, the dark pink there? And then to the right of that, or to the east of that, is now we've got a little area carved out for RV2, which would mean that some of these little cottage areas right here adjacent to the antique store would then have a little bit, I think right now, what are they zoned right now? I don't have my old map, but they're not, are they RV2 right now? They may be RV2 right now.
RV2 range.
They're RV2 currently right now, but RV2, so then if you can see behind that is all pink, which then would be the RV1. So that was RV2. That is now going to be RV1. So now if you go back to where the antique store is and you go to the left of it, if you're looking at the map flat and you look to the left of that, which is more like to the west of it. So it'd be where the little cottages are, where he's got the antique storage and, you know, they're for sale. Yeah, for sale, right.
Which color is that? You said that was, you mean it's like fuchsia color?
That is
Repute, or-
it's a fuchsia, I
Yeah.
guess you would call it. It's
Can
a,
I see where you're? Can I see?
so it would be this area right here where the antique stores
Okay,
are.
okay.
That is considered a town commercial
Oh,
zone.
right. Okay, sure.
So to the left of that are some cottages that are for sale.
Yes.
And they've got that little
Control,
alleyway in
yes.
front, right?
Yes, I got
Okay.
it.
So my thought is that that would be another good location for an RV2 with possible multi-use housing. You could put some commercial on the bottom, maybe. There could be some other things you could do than just have the cottages. So what my question is to all of you, would you like to maybe extend the RV2 from, where it is on the one side of the town commercial center to the other side, to that, just the pink area that is currently, light pink, I want to say.
I mean, I guess this is what I assumed that still were being carried over with A1's spot with because my current understanding was that the two, at least one cottage, if not two next to it, were still in the commercial residential zone.
Right.
And that's when it would really help to have Mary Sue's map, because I couldn't tell that wasn't being
Right.
covered.
With you. Yeah.
You know, like,
Right. So, yeah, so we have a little issue that we don't know exactly where the zones are stopping and starting.
Important to know.
I think, though, the commercial zone
they're being marketed as residential commercial buildings for sale.
Are those included in there already? I don't think they are, but I could be
Well, I
wrong.
believe that is exactly how they're being marketed.
So
Well, true. That's
the-
true.
sorry, the boundaries of that little pink zone, the
Mhm.
TC, are not changing from what they are currently.
No, we understand that. What we're asking is, are the cottages that are for sale right now
The ones next to the antique.
next to the antique store,
Yeah,
are
they're in
they,
the TC
they're included in the TZ zone, or are they?
now.
They are part of that TZ. So where does the TC stop then? Where does that?
There's a road that comes down, and I don't know off the top of my head what the name of the road
Point
is.
of memory.
There's
Is
a
that
crossroad.
That's not D Street there, or what is that? You should know that.
F Street is coming.
You should
in
know
there.
that.
It is. I think it's Oak Street.
Map superimposed
Yeah.
on
That's what she was, that's what I'm actually saying. It's a
I
map
thought.
superimposed.
Street.
But I believe it's F. I
I
think
think
that's
it could be
correct.
F, yes. Okay, so
And that's where it's.
so then the dark pink or fuchsia, whatever we want to call it, then goes to the top of that little
Because
gray.
you want it to go to where Cox Road hits, because Cox Road F
Yes.
comes first, and then like if you go a little further up, and it appears that there's 4 more buildings that would then be covered in
Yeah.
TC.
Yes.
Yeah. It
Okay.
kind of makes sense just from a visual.
Like they're along 260 coming into
Right,
town.
right,
but they
right,
feel like they
I
should
think.
Yeah.
I think the top one, there's the White House up at the top, and then you've got a couple other, right, exactly. What do you think about that, Ms. Franklin? Maybe thinking about putting that into an RV2.
That's RV1.
Right, I understand. Well,
But
yes,
like you wouldn't be able to
currently.
have like retail spaces in there under RV1, but under TC you could.
Right.
Yes, and to clarify, we're changing what is currently an RV2 into an RV1 because we determined that our factors for what's RV1 versus RV2 are related to off-street parking and road width availability.
Mhm.
And so that is why we're changing RV2 to RV1. And I think the TC can certainly come up. It's not that decision factor isn't the same for the TC as it is for the RVs.
If I,
Yes,
if
yes.
if I understand the map, sorry.
Good.
You're thinking that where this ends like
Yes,
there, it
Right.
really should come out. And I think what you mean is, so there's, the Cox Road is like a horseshoe. When you're leaving town and you make that left into Cox Road, it seems like that would be the delineation of where you could have some mixed use. Those buildings could be, let's say, a yoga studio and a coffee shop or something, because that area is fairly commercial.
Yep.
Lido's is across the street, the Kettle Corn is across the street, all of that. And I think that's a delineation that makes sense kind of with topography, with the turn lane. I could be wrong, but that's just my sense of it. Is that kind of,
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I feel like that is the area of town that feels like the most ripe for development, and should be the place that like brings you in and you're excited about coming into town, that you see things. So if
but it shouldn't be like, 5-story buildings or anything.
No.
It should be something that is sort of tells
Or
you
key,
what we're
yeah.
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about going all the way to Cox Road. I'm talking about going to the Little Road.
Well, that's
Yeah.
already been covered is what.
Yeah, I guess it's already being covered, actually. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that when I first looked
Yeah.
at this map. So that's,
So if you're not trying to include those other 4 buildings, because there's 4 buildings.
yes, I do
between
see
F
that now.
and-
Okay, all right, okay. Okay, I think, all right, I think otherwise it looks like a much more, a cleaned up map, I think is what it is. And I like the idea that we've taken the RV2 area and kind of really made it more precisely what it is characteristically, so that it is more cohesive with our definitions. So I like that change. Anybody else have an issue, or do we want to go ahead and make a motion to approve this, or how do you want to do this? What do you want to do? More conversation on it?
Well, I mean, but so we've talked about this and then
Well, it looks as though it already is part of the town commercial area.
Well, I think
At least the
Mary
area
Sue
that I'm
is
talking about.
suggesting, I think, to extend the TC up to include that next block along
I
260.
mean, and I know it stops, like there's a house, there's like a little landscaping on the left as you're coming in that I think says CB,
Well,
like with a big stone or
yeah,
something.
yeah,
Or
right.
that,
Right, and that house is up on a little knoll.
well, but that house is not on 260 really. It's
Because there is
set
that
back.
access. No, the access lane though isn't on that block in the same way that it.
You mean the alley?
The front alley.
Yeah, the front alley isn't on that part. So it actually, I think, would be a harder place to have a commercial because there's,
That's what I think.
because you'd have to be back in the neighborhood
Yes, you do.
and that would create.
Got it.
I think too.
Whereas like the other one, there is the state highway that is that front alley that.
Okay.
Keep traffic in.
So
like
then,
more
and this covers that. then.
Yes, it does
Okay.
cover that.
All right.
It
Okay,
does
great.
cover it. I couldn't see that either, so that's great. And of course, now we've got the horizons by the bay. We've got that covered in the correct zone, which this allows for because it's now in the RV2. So that's what an important change is, I remember. I'm trying to think of the other changes we made that were significant. But I happen to think this is a much cleaner version than we've had before. And it does protect the cottages, the historic cottage nature of the pink RV1 area. I like that. Okay. We can either have a motion now or we can wait till the end. How do you want to do this? Anybody have any particular idea? What do you think we should do on that, Ms. Franklin? Do you have a particular need to approve this map right now, or should we? It might behoove us to wait, go through some of the other the land uses and just make sure that everything syncs up with our idea of where everything is. So let's hold on making a motion to approve it. We're going to go through the zoning districts first, really get a sense for that we've matched it up correctly. So everybody go to the chart, the land use classifications table, I guess is what you want to call it, please. Okay. So if you look at the first thing, which is residential uses, we talked about this on the phone earlier, and we came to the conclusion that we need to touch up some of our descriptions and whatever, if you can see on the draft of our actual purpose and intents of the districts. We're going to kind of clean that up again for next time. But if you go through and quickly look at this table as to what is sort of permitted and not permitted in the residential uses, does anybody have any issues about those particular characteristics, uses? Yes, ma'am?
Well, it's just, and you and I had talked about this, and then we talked, Sarah, you and I talked about it before the meeting, but the use of single family, I mean, that's kind of that's like a 1960s, 1970s Brady Bunch kind, well, that was not really two
A
families,
bit
but,
earlier than that, if you don't mind.
well, yes, 50s, 40s, yes, but
Thank
that's, but families are different now. And I think that single family kind of gets into traditional human structures that we don't necessarily use today. And I'm wondering if we should put in parens or just something that this is, you don't have to all be related. It could be people that are cohabitating. They consider themselves family, but it's not a single family because it might have children from one marriage and children from another. I don't know if it matters, but while we're.
I know they're still using the term because as I look through all the other codes around, they're still
Yeah.
using single family and everybody on the internet seems to be doing
They're
it.
not cutting
But I
it.
do know that at some point we're going to be changing those terms. The question is, do we want to do that now? Do you want to do further research on that? Or how do you want to deal with that? Because I think we are probably looking towards making it a more unified or more neutral, I guess would be the better term.
Attached dwelling.
Well,
is
we
the- That seems like the internet's preference.
Yes,
Mhm.
Just Googling, like what
single
are
detached.
people using instead of it?
So that you are seeing that there is a change.
Yeah, though, I mean, this is pretty cutting edge. Even the internet's like,
Yeah,
we
they're
call
kind of
these
like,
things-
"We're gonna be sued." That's is going on, I'm not sure.
I would say I think this is a good conversation to have because we've been asked to modernize this. And I think that it would be good for me to do a little more research and also just consult with the attorney if there's any implications we're not thinking of by changing it. But I don't think it's bad to do what we are tasked with doing and modernize things.
Okay, so we're going to put you on that assignment. But in the meantime, we're going to understand what it really means. And we're going to go through and just look at this chart and just make sure that it looks pretty much as you would assume it would. We're going to go ahead and use the same designations P, NP, C, even though I think we're talking about maybe even changing that up. I don't know. But right now, does this look okay to everybody or does anybody have any questions with the residential uses? Give you one quick minute to look it over. Okay, I don't see anybody's big questions. And if I see no questions, I'm going to turn the page to the next set of. Sorry. So now we're going to go to, I do have a question on the next page, actually, where it says dwelling unit in combination with commercial use. You have TC as having a conditional use.
Mhm.
Have residences in the TC? I'm trying to think.
The TC does allow single-family detached dwellings.
But I thought where do we have a residential area in the commercial?
doesn't currently what the Papa John's building,
Right?
doesn't that have there's a apartment as a part of that
Oh,
building?
I guess there is, isn't
That-
there?
Well, there is the liquor store too.
The liquor
There are
store.
mixed use places.
Okay, I guess that is
No, so if
true.
you,
People
Yeah.
will be out of a home.
And that
if we-
would be the town commercial. That's right. Okay, so that's good. Thank you. Okay, that clarified that for me. Thank you. Let's go on to accommodations and group living. This gets a little bit more interesting. We've got bed and breakfast, et cetera. I know I had some questions on the bed and breakfast, and I'm trying to think what they were here now. I think oh yes, the bed and breakfast. It's on page 15 if you want to look at it in the description part of it. It is in just about every district. Yes, it is. I guess I was going to ask you, do we want to change the not to exceed 90 days per year per, is it supposed to be per client? Or what do we want to change with that?
I think that was the intent, is that you're not going to have the same lodger residing. Like the idea is that you're not renting a boarding house, you're renting a bed and breakfast. So you could have someone there for the season, but not all year. It's not rental units all year round. And so I think it is intended to be per.
So, okay, so we want
client,
to
per
add,
renter,
we want
per-
to add the terms per client, right? Or per renter or per
Something.
per
along those
use or
Visitor?
per visitor? Okay, you want to use per. So what if they rent a room and two visitors come into
Mhm.
each, or come into one of the rooms? How does that work?
So the state has rules about how many people can be occupying a bed and breakfast. I think it can't have more than 19. This is off the top of my head, so I need to check that, but I think it has to be less than 19 people staying. And then there's also a square footage requirement, which again, I want to say is like your base is 90 square feet and then it's 50 square feet per person after that. Again, I want to check those numbers, but that's giving you a rough idea of the range of what the state's regulations are.
Does that mean that something about that should be referenced in here? If it's more guidelines?
So the way we reference it is we say that the facility is operated through a state-approved bed and breakfast registry, which means they're going to have to go and comply with all the state
That's right.
laws. That way, if the state laws change, it adjusts with them.
Okay, that's
So,
right. I remember.
yeah.
Okay, thank you.
But are we misleading people by saying, it just seems confusing when it says not to exceed 90 days per year. What doesn't exceed 90 days per year? I guess that,
Can someone only use their property for 90 days out of a year as a B and B? Because that's what it sounds like.
Yeah.
it does
Yes,
sound
it
that way
is.
to me
Yeah.
too. That's why I'm confused by it.
I've
That's-
put a note to check. I've written per visitor and put a note to check the terminology and update
And
it.
also, I think instead of saying meals, I think it's only allowed for one meal, right? Breakfast or something, or are they allowed to have it for more than one? I'm worried that we're a little confusing here in the way we've written it up and that we don't align with the state format. I don't know. How about if we recheck this and bring it back next time? How about if we do, you can check on that and maybe we need to look at that because right now it is allowed in just about every residential area. So we have to make sure that it's going to,
Mhm.
be something that we want in every single zone. And especially if you're going to be allowed up to, did you say 19 people? 19 people in these little cottages up there, where there's certain,
It's huge.
I mean, that's gonna be a lot of people and a lot of parking needs. So anyway, if you wouldn't mind just readdressing that, I'm gonna just put that as a big question mark. if you don't mind.
And it would be limited by the fire code, that square footage and how many people you have.
You have to have a pretty
Right.
big house to be able
Yeah.
to get to the
To get to
19.
The 19, yes.
I don't know that.
Need a
we're gonna get a whole
4-level.
lot, so.
Yeah, that's,
And it says that you need a parking space provided for each guest room. So that's, if you have 19 people.
That could be that could be 5 rooms. I mean, if you have bunk beds,
Right. Yes. I mean, would that even would that accommodate everybody if there's gonna be 2 people per room? Can you have more than 1 person per room, I guess is my question. I don't know.
As long as it's compliant with fire and safety code.
and
Yeah.
that's all in the state regulations.
Yes, and I recently read them, but I can't promise you my memory is exact on those numbers, but they're close to that.
that's huge.
So are we concerned at all that there could be a parking issue if there's, 2 people per room allowed or whatever?
That's, I mean, a lot of
Are we-
times when you go to a place, even if you are 2 people to a room, you only get 1 parking spot. Like,
Right.
so they're saying you got to have a parking spot they wouldn't be approved if they didn't have
Required parking spot.
parking spots.
And do we have anything that, I understand they have to do something with the state registry. And then, is there anything that do they register here or how is it kind of supervised within the town? Because if I'm in a neighborhood, narrow streets, and it's hell already, and then there's, someone's having a B&B, how do we know what's actually occurring?
That's a very legitimate point.
I
You're welcome.
will ask the question about whether B&Bs are part of the rental program, because they're like, or if there's some kind of license for them. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but I'm going to make a
Well,
note to
maybe
ask
we,
that.
we not incorporate it into the rental program? I mean, is it our rental program or is it
So it's the town's rental program, and I think we can ask, but the rental program is run by the town's administration not by the plan, it's not through zoning.
It's not what?
It's not through planning and zoning. It's through the town. It's separate from the zoning
Right,
ordinance. So we'll ask about it and see what their thinking is on that.
And so if someone applies and they go through the state registry, does the town get notification? By the way, there's 10 properties in your town that are now going to be B&Bs. I mean, because I just can see, I've read about, I'm sure there's wonderful stories, but I've also read horror stories for residents in small areas where things could get a little bit out of control. When you have too many people in a small area, all kinds of things can happen. So I was just wondering, how does the town know? Because I just think
So
we should be keeping track of those things.
Well, if you
Right.
put it into the rental program, if
Right.
we or whoever has the ability to do that into the rental program, then we'd have to be notified.
Right.
I don't know who
No,
would do it.
I don't believe that's true.
Yeah.
Is it true if, we don't know if the next door neighbor is being, house is
Right,
being
so-
rented out?
a bed and breakfast requires a state license. And when a state license is required, that actually comes to the town treasurer for sign off. So
Okay.
that in order to have a legal bed and breakfast, right, they would have, I'm not sure if the state is saying, do you have zoning and use, to get a use and occupancy from the county, you need a zoning permit from the town. If they somehow get the state license without all these things, which I don't think they can, it would still come to the treasurer. And when it comes to the treasurer, they usually flag me and say, and we are making that official, that they would say, this business license came in. Are there any zoning issues with it? We've had that happen recently, not with bed and breakfast, but other things.
And would there be any such type of system where that if there, let's just say that there's a lot of complaints about one specific house, let's say where the owner
Mhm.
doesn't care really, and it's sort of become like Animal House, well, younger people might not know the movie, but in any event, is there like it just seems that maybe there should be like, I don't know if it's a board or something, but if the neighbors have a lot of complaints, are there any remedies for them so that those issues can be addressed and mitigated?
So I think first, the owner has to live on premises.
Right.
I think it sounds like you're concerned about noise.
And traffic and just, the noise and sort
Noise.
of the disruption maybe of people's normal way of ingress and egress and what they're used to. And, that being their primary, residence. Somebody might work in a factory and have to do swing shift. There's just a lot of different things that I just don't want citizens who aren't making money from their house, but use it as, it's their, the home is where the heart is, and it changes and they are sort of deprived of their quiet use and enjoyment of their property. And I just want to
No
know,
one's guaranteed quiet though outside of quiet hours.
well, no,
which
but
are like-
no, quiet, that's just a legal term, your quiet use and enjoyment of your property. And so, no, I understand about the quiet hours, but we all know that so many things are observed in the breach. And so I'm just wondering, I just want to make sure that there's a tangible and observable program plan strategy to deal with things that might go awry so that everyone understands if I don't, if I allow this to become too rowdy, I could lose my right to do it. Or there should be something so that the homeowner, because they might be impervious to noise, they might be deaf, I don't know, hard of hearing. I just want to make sure that there's something for the actual homeowners in their neighborhood to have a voice if needed. If everything goes great, that's great.
Right.
One would hope that, but I don't think that's the real world.
So I think it's the other laws that aren't zoning laws that regulate that, like your noise, your code compliance. If there's traffic problems, right? Because basically they're only required to have 5 parking spaces, and they should be communicating that with their guests. So if there becomes a problem where there's a lot of on-street parking in an area where on-street parking isn't available, then that's another. So there's enforcement issues that are the code is written this way. If things happen outside of the code, then enforcement gets involved. And so that's where the property owners have to call and report these issues. So there's many bed and breakfasts that aren't wild and crazy. And so preventing bed and breakfasts that are perfectly compatible with the neighborhood, because there might be one that's incompatible with the neighborhood. So you have to kind of balance that and let enforcement do its job.
But isn't it our responsibility to attempt to anticipate, which is why we have laws and rules and what have you, as to what could conceivably happen? I mean, I think that if somebody's in a bed and breakfast and they're restricted in certain ways as to how many parking spots, how many people, that there needs to be, I don't want to say recourse necessarily, but they have a place where they can call and say, this is a problem. I mean, to me, that's our job. You're not penalizing the other people if they're doing their thing and abiding, and I don't know.
But that's what I think Sarah's saying, that comes in through the enforcement of the other things. So the
Right.
recourse is already, you're going to call because there's a noise.
Who are you going to
violation.
call?
The town enforcement. Who would it be otherwise?
Well, okay, but I'm just saying, I mean, how are you going to let citizens, I mean, I just think that to me, this is like a sea change for small neighborhoods. And I just think that there then should be something on the town website that says, B&B rules and regulations. And if you are negatively affected or impacted, here's where you call. If there's an outreach so that I just don't want,
This is on the website, the town website.
but I'm talking about
Want something separate on the town.
yeah, something
So
like, yeah.
we have lots of little separate things and becomes burdensome that you can't,
Some if
if you
you
only have one.
search term.
Okay, so here's
It's there already.
the next question. Maybe what you're really saying is we need to have more space between houses so that they're not bothered. Maybe we should look at the zones and make sure that we are okay with what zones they're located
Maybe.
in. Because I think that we are okay with probably anything in any of the commercial zones, of course. And I'm thinking the RV2, I would think that they have larger lots. The RLD have a larger lots. The RMD has larger lots. The smallest lots, I think, are probably the RV1, the cottages.
They're
So-
not going to get an approval without having the parking spots anyway.
And they're going to have, but I mean, the question is, do we just prohibit it from that area and not have to worry about you dealing with, I don't know. What do you
So
think?
two things. First of all, this is currently allowed. This is what your rules currently are in your zoning code now. So if you don't have it happening now, right, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it's not going to suddenly happen because we're not actually changing anything. I
I'll
think
tell you
that
what is
the
changing
RV
though.
yeah.
I'll tell you what could change are these ADUs. Because from what I've been reading is that people are putting ADUs in the back to stay in because you're allowed to be the owner in the ADU and have your whatever in the front.
That's not a bed and breakfast. So I have had people come to me to try to get their ADUs registered as bed and breakfast, and they're
Oh,
not.
really?
bed
Because
and
I've been
breakfast.
reading that they have been allowing that in Maryland, in the state of Maryland. So that's interesting.
But
It says under a common roof.
under a
And
common roof,
in.
and
Well, I know, but when ADUs become,
But that's a different, so
yeah,
let's deal with this first
different.
and then that.
oh, I understand, but I'm just suggesting, could it change or evolve when people start having ADUs in the back? That's what I'm saying.
And so what I would say there is that on item 3 is no separate kitchens are provided. An ADU is required to have a separate kitchen. So an
okay.
ADU
Okay.
cannot
Okay.
be
Gotcha.
Okay,
a
good.
bed and breakfast,
Okay.
no
There we
matter
go.
what.
Okay, good. Okay.
So that doesn't
Okay, good.
impact that.
All right. Well, so is everybody then so far okay with the way it is currently? That theoretically in every zone, it would be an SC or a C. I think so far everybody's been happy with the way the answers have been coming through. Okay. Anything else in the accommodations and group living? Any questions? I don't see any questions. Okay, let's turn to the next one then. We're gonna be looking at. Institutional, recreational, and educational uses. Any questions, issues on this one? I know daycare center was a question. What were we going to do about daycare centers? Were you going to look that one up too, Ms. Franklin, or what are you going to do about that? Do you have any questions about that?
What page is that?
So I had,
That would be,
like,
No, no, I mean,
one-
it's here.
Sorry.
I think it was 25. I'm sorry, that's not 25.
I
It's
think it's
18.
19, 18. And I apologize because we moved home daycares underneath daycares and
Mhm.
I didn't move them in the text. So they're on like page 25 or something for you all,
It's on
but they
19,
should be on
actually.
page, they should be on page 19, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
Home daycare, I know what we were talking about. Was it home daycare? Oh, let me see, where's that located? That is located on
It's on page 25, but it should be on page
25, I'm
19.
sorry, yeah.
So it's been moved in my.
Go to
master
20,
agreement.
actually, it's 27 on mine. So if you want to go to 27, home
Yeah,
daycare.
27.
I was a little confused because as a business that provides licensed care to 5 or more, and I thought that a home daycare went up to 12. Does anybody have any other ideas about it as far as what it really is?
Remember 12?
I think the state license is 12 for a home daycare.
I think you had mentioned that the county, this is 12 or
Well, the county
less.
does say 12. I don't know what this, I didn't look up the state actually, but the county is up to 12. So I did look them up.
But I can certainly look at what the state is instead of saying 5 or more children. We can say whatever it is the state defines.
Okay,
that.
okay. I think we need to be a little more clear about
Well,
that.
I'll look at what the state says and put it in there.
Perfect. So I'm going to make that another one that you might want to take a look at and be more specific on. And did we, okay, now the other thing that Calvert County has, the county has, is about the on-site drop-off site that you provide if you're a daycare provider. So in other words, instead of dropping a kid off on the street, let's just say you've got an employee, the employee parks in the driveway. So where are you going to pull off unless you have a designated drop-off site?
Well, couldn't the
Covered.
couldn't the employee and the employer be at the end of the driveway and, wait for the children and usher them in? I mean, is it?
I think it depends on your length of driveway,
Well,
but
that's true.
the
That's
question,
true.
but all it is basically saying is you have to have a parking space for the employee. But my concern is the safety of dropping a kid off in the street, especially if you're in a narrow street situation where people are zooming around you trying to get to work in the morning. I just want to make sure that we have a safe spot to drop them off at. And I know Calvert does have a stipulation about that. Do we want to have a stipulation about that? I would like it myself.
There's a stipulation here, all such uses shall be located so as to permit the safe pickup and delivery of all persons on the site.
Are you reading from the table?
It's
or
number,
from the-
it's actually reading number
Home daycare,
2.
too.
It's number 2, but is
Oh, yeah,
that
yeah.
clear enough to really say that it has to be an on-site pickup pickup area? I mean, it does say you're supposed to pick up and drop off on site. It does say that, but is it clear enough written that we understand that that's a drop-off zone? I don't
Well,
know.
how would you decide if you didn't do that? In other words, dropping off and picking up at the site at the end of the driveway. What on earth would you do? What would you say? Because you're on a residential
Right.
street.
Well,
and
yes.
I'm just trying to picture it
Right.
as to what,
Well, I mean, what they do, like on my little street, is that they cut into some of their front yard area to give yourself a drop-off zone so that you're not out in the street dropping a person off, or not, trying to squish into the end of the driveway and only being partially on. You want to make sure the kid doesn't run out in the street and around, and you want to make sure the kid is safely into the daycare area. But is that written clearly enough to make it sound as though we need to have a drop-off zone? Or do we need to have it specify that we need an on-site drop-off and pickup zone? I don't know.
I think it's clear
I
enough.
think it's
because-
clear
Fair enough?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I think
Yeah.
that then becomes more confusing to say, what's a zone? How do we define a zone?
Yeah.
Like, that seems like a,
Right, I agree with that.
Okay.
I think it's okay.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, good, perfect. Okay, then the only thing that you have to figure out is if we want to add a number in there or whatever, however you want to phrase that.
Mhm.
And otherwise, if everybody looks at the institutional recreation on educational uses and sees that it's okay as far as you're concerned, we will move on to the next use, which is the, I guess you would call it the unnamed use because we have
The blank use.
okay, it's the water-oriented recreation, game and wildlife preserves, nature preserves.
Oh, they live
Um,
under institutional.
I'm
If
sorry?
you want to, we can move them under something else, but they were under institutional.
Oh, it's just the way that the.
Yeah.
It's just that the page is divided that way. Okay, got it. Okay. it
Oh,
does-
right.
I got it. Okay, no, it's fine. So does anybody have any questions about those uses in those zones? I don't see anybody having any questions about that. Then we go into office and commercial uses. We have, this is the one where I think under retail and personal, I think you switched them back. Do you take a look at neighborhood retail
The RV1
and
RV2.
personal services? I think you meant to flip it so that.
I'm
Um,
confused.
Yes,
okay, so
you're
take a
correct.
look at neighborhood retail. The RV1 should be NP and the RV2 should be C. And under personal services, it's supposed to be
Same thing.
the same thing. NP under RV1 and C under RV2.
Mhm.
So just flip it.
What is, can you say that again one more time?
So under
Medical clinics and neighborhood retail, was that it?
no, neighborhood retail, neighborhood retail, you flip the RV1 and RV2.
Oh, okay, wait a minute. So RV1 should be NP and RV2 should be C. Okay.
Personal services should
Oh.
be
Same.
flipped as well.
Flipped as well. Okay,
Mhm,
I gotcha. Okay, great. Thank you.
And also, I know this is further down, but carnival or similar transient enterprise was also needed to be flipped.
I'm sorry, say that again?
The other one that needed to be flipped was carnival or similar transient enterprise, which is towards the end of the table, but I'm just inviting that for you now, that needed to be flipped from our use intensity
Okay,
was opposite.
okay. Now, did we, okay, when we go back to home occupation, minor and major, it looks as though we're approving both minor and major for every zone. So do we even, right?
I
Is
think so.
right or no? I didn't think we originally were going to have RV1 have the major, but then, I'm looking at it
Oh,
and going,
yeah.
well, maybe what?
I have it stricken from the RH, but we removed the RHD. I think when we removed the RHD, things got confused, but it should not be in the RV1
Okay,
or
so
the
What should not be?
The home occupation major
major home occupation.
Major.
should not be an RV1, so that's a NP in that zone, okay. Okay, what about offices? What was that supposed to be? C or NP?
Offices
Yeah,
In RV1?
is supposed to be, NP also.
Right,
NP
right.
per
Yeah, I would think
RV1,
so.
okay.
Okay.
That makes more sense, okay. Okay, so if everybody's noted, we've changed the home occupation major in RV1, the offices in RV1, the neighborhood retail in RV1 and in RV2, and then personal services RV1 and RV2. And now there are some discrepancies when you go and read what you have in here as to what is here. There's some discrepancies as to
What's permitted and
Yeah,
what you
what's
don't.
permitted,
Yeah, that needs to
exactly.
be cleaned up.
so we need to clean that up. So if we can get this straightened out, you can go back and we
Once it's straightened out, I'm gonna
can figure that out. Okay.
cross-reference everything.
Yes, excellent. There was one other thing. Okay, then maybe it's not on this page. All right, everybody, then if everybody's okay with this, let's go ahead and turn to the next page, which is general use, general services, et cetera. General services is on page 32. Let me see.
32?
Yeah, general services is a little confusing here. Because the way I'm seeing general services on page 32, if you want to access that, you have under general services, or we did, or whoever, that music and art studio would be considered general services. And I really think we should be allowing that in like RV2 at least. Maybe even NC. Of course, no, NC doesn't have any residential. I guess it's permitted to be. It would be the RV2 I was looking at actually, and maybe even the RLD and the RMD. Why you can't have music lessons in your house or even ballet lessons or I don't know. What does everybody think about that for general services?
If I can just, so I think there's 2 or 3 pieces, right? Should
Yeah.
music or art studio be under personal services? So it's
Okay.
allowed in more zones. And
Okay.
also, is a music studio in your house where you're teaching one person at a time a home occupation rather than
Mhm.
a personal service?
Okay.
Well, number probably the number of students at any given time would make the difference, I would
Yeah,
imagine.
that would probably be
Yes.
it. Okay, so personal services, then do we want to add things to the personal service list or how do you want to change that?
I mean, I think that's the question for you guys. Do you think music or art studio should go in personal services, those are lower impact, right? Whereas general was a higher impact. So which zone should it be in? All the personal services are allowed in general services. So that's really the question for you guys.
Okay, so let's talk about, go back to page 31, personal services, and let's talk about what we want in personal services. Because we just went over personal services and, yeah, we have it conditional in the RV2. As far as I'm concerned, and I want your ideas on this. I think music teaching, at least for 1 to 2 students max, I think could go under personal services, like a brother and sister or something. I could easily see you having one car dropping off both kids,
Holtzman brothers,
dropping them off and getting their music lessons and having it in a personal service. I don't know.
would that be per hour? Like if someone teaches per hour, I mean, but it's one car drop off pip, it's not
You don't
at
have
the same time.
6 cars just sitting
Yeah.
there waiting, for their kid and honking for
Yeah.
Johnny to come out. So,
Sorry.
if,
Just the condition for the personal services is that it's basically that it's in Horizons.
What?
Sorry, the condition for the personal services is basically that it's located in something like Horizons where it's a pre-existing mixed use area. So the question isn't really, do you want to permit it in a house? It's a question is, do you want to permit it in one of those? It's not going to be permitted in a house because a house isn't a mixed use. Unless,
but what if you have it in the RV2? You could have it certainly in the RV2.
and if you
Anywhere in the
if you just
RV2.
permit
just
it in the
Horizons.
RV2 without a condition.
Well, certainly I'm not sure about dry cleaning, but I could see any of these others being in the RV2 for sure. I could even see them in the LMD or even the anything with a larger lot, more parking area. I can see any of these personal services myself, but I mean, I'm the only one talking here. But I just, yes.
Well, recreational fitness studio is in personal services, and that's not that much different than a dance studio.
Well, again, I think it's the quantity of people you have.
Right,
Now,
but,
if you only-
but a fitness studio generally is, unless you define it, to me, that's, a small gym. You might
This
have,
is because it's under personal services, then fitness studio becomes services to an individual. Is that?
I think it's a matter of quantity,
So-
isn't it?
What we decided to do last time was allow personal services, but then make the condition that they're in a pre-existing mixed-use building. And if you look at the permitted use table, they're only permitted, the only residential zone they're permitted in is the RV2 zone with that condition. So that they're not going to exist in people's houses unless we change the land use table. So that's sort of the question you're circling back to is, do we want to allow these uses as something larger than a home occupation? Because these could all be home occupations.
That's what, yeah. So like if you're a personal trainer and you have a home gym and you're just one person is coming in at a time, you can call it a home occupation. And we don't have to like think about this recreational studio, how that fits in.
And it is a major home occupation
Yeah.
because someone is coming to the
Okay.
site.
so some things are going to be like just
Yeah, they could
kind of
be
amorphous.
yeah, like they
Right.
could go, you could go
Right.
under one or the other.
Okay.
But you could get your permit if that was, for lots of these things under occupations.
Okay, so, all right, so great. So right now it looks pretty good. Okay, let's go. So general services, and does anybody have any questions about general services, or are you okay with the fact they're not permitted anywhere but the TUC, PC, MC?
That makes sense to me.
Okay. And then we have, of course, the contractor shop, restaurants, tasting rooms, taverns, nightclubs. This is all
Oh,
on
yeah, yeah.
the chart underneath.
Only place that's allowed is in the marine.
Right. Now, I mean, the tasting room could possibly go into like the PC or some other, well, even that
I mean,
wouldn't
it
have
feels
enough
like it could be
parking.
in like, but if it was in TC and you had the parking, because like there's all sorts of other requirements then when you come into a retail space, when you go further in it, that like,
That's right.
so I feel like you could have a tasting room if it had the parking, and that could be in town commercial.
Because where the Chinese restaurant is and the kettle corn, if let's say they sold that building and someone decided to make it,
A tasting room, that'd be,
right, yeah, I mean, they've got the
marvelous.
parking.
Wow, what an idea.
Yeah, I know. And so,
yeah.
yeah,
Do you want to permit it in the
I think so.
NC, TC, and PC as well? Is that?
Like
It's
anywhere
my
in a
neighborhood.
restaurant would be
Yeah,
permitted,
they're-
a tasting room
yes.
should be permitted.
Very limited in impact, I think, except for parking.
I think you're right. Wherever you said that,
Wherever a restaurant is being permitted, a tasting room.
it's
should be-
similar, it's just it's a similar thing.
That is a good point because the NC district should be permitting some restaurants currently, and it's not because it has restaurants in it.
Mhm.
Okay.
And the NC, and hold on, the TC
So-
is permitting that. So the NC currently has like Bolitos in it. And so that I think is a class 1 restaurant.
He's still there, isn't it, Papa John's now?
Well, the Lido's, I think she means over there by like across
Fire,
by the firehouse.
by the firehouse.
That's where the Lido's.
Oh, that Lido's, okay.
That's the NC versus the TC.
So where does like a coffee shop fit in? As a restaurant?
It's a class 1 restaurant.
One.
Somebody
better tell
we
me.
can
Yeah, so let me explain the classes of restaurant,
Surprise.
if that's okay.
You're looking at my.
Because I changed your classes of restaurants and I shared that last time, but some people missed that, which is that your classes of restaurants used to go from like your most intense was a class 1 and your least intense was a class 3. And that just didn't logically fit for me. So I switched your 1 and your 3. So your 1 is your, like your coffee shop or you anywhere where you're not sitting down, where you're kind of coming in and picking up, you might have a few seats. Your class 2 has, let me actually pull up the
It's stupid.
definitions. Sorry. Okay, so your class 1 includes fast food restaurants and is this sort of this pick up and go. Class 2 is where there's a lot of carry out, but there's also some sit down area, kind of like the little tea shop that's over there. And then a class 3 is your sort of full on restaurant like Baya.
So, yeah, why is that currently not permitted in TC? It feels like that's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Agreed.
This is
Yeah,
kind of
so we
what's
want- yeah, I
there.
wanna
So what do
change-
you want to change?
I think we
Oh,
should change that to
okay.
permitted.
Okay,
Class 3 should be
That's
permitted
exactly
in
where they're
TC.
supposed to be.
Yeah.
Okay, so everybody, if everybody's okay, class 3,
Indeed.
instead of NP, it looks like we had it P before.
Sure does.
We'll go ahead and change that to P.
Yeah, because I flipped them because I
Yeah, I
flipped
see
the
what you did.
uses, so it-
2 is allowed, so 3 certainly. should
Yeah,
be.
right. There you go.
Right.
There you go.
And
Perfect.
so, and then do we feel good about saying that tasting rooms should be allowed in
Yeah.
TC?
EC. and
EC.
MC.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you agree?
Wait a minute. I thought we were changing that. Wait, let's see.
Well,
Tasting rooms, we're going to go P from NC, TC, PC, right? No?
that's what I
Not
had.
neighborhood. Oh, you think neighborhood commercial?
Well, I thought we were thinking neighborhood too. No, not neighborhood commercial?
Seems like that would be okay.
If we had parking, I mean, there usually is less parking in the neighborhood, but
Absolutely there is. It's
Yeah.
that's your
my
neighborhood.
block.
That's
yeah.
your block. So
exactly.
that's our problem,
Exactly.
parking.
Yep, but I am just, when you look into the zoning to be able to have any kind of retail space, you have to have a certain number of parking spots per 200 or 300 square feet
Mhm.
of space, and it
Mhm.
depends on what type of space it's going to be.
Mhm.
So like you wouldn't, if your retail space, they would have to have on-premise parking to be able to have it in that neighborhood. So we could say yes, but probably there aren't a lot of options.
We
for that.
could.
Gas
we could-
station, you
we
know
could
that,
say, mhm.
Where the Sitco was. that
Yeah, I mean, like if
switched over.
somebody,
That's a-
someone could make that a small beer brewery, or they could do something where there is some, I mean, I'm just thinking,
Yeah,
so.
or like where, I mean,
My house has the parking behind it.
yeah.
You could charge.
Well, she used to have I mean, that was, you
That was
had
a store,
retail space, and like where you had the other place,
Makes sense.
like when it was Bay Hill Market.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
so if that went back into like a light
That's right.
restaurant
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe a small,
I miss
yes,
that place.
it could be an option then if you made it
There
P,
was-
permitted in the NC. So is everybody okay with P in the NC, TC, PC for tasting rooms?
Or I think-
Class 3 restaurant,
Okay, but so wait 1 second.
Mhm.
So you are in NC,
Yes.
that area that we were just talking about currently would not allow a type 1 restaurant?
I think, didn't you say you flipped?
So,
What?
yeah, but no. Did I flip it already?
Because like if that's NC, it says not
Yeah.
permitted for one. And so do
All
we
of-
want it?
There were no restaurants permitted in the NC, even though there's restaurants in the NC because they were grandfathered most likely.
Yeah, so I guess I feel like that it's worth, do we think they are currently there and they're being grandfathered, but if there were other spaces that could jump through those other hoops in NC, should they be permitted to have something like a coffee shop?
You mean like in NC, can you name what restaurant? Is that like Baya or I'm a little, this is where I need my little plastic.
It's
Come on,
Lido.
Lido's.
Just Lido's, I think.
But I guess I was also thinking about though, where you were just saying, like if that Sitco got switched,
That whole net,
that is
yeah,
in an NC and
They-
like there are spaces
Where-
over there.
Where that,
hair salon, Tangled, that area.
that was a
there
Sitco?
No,
Well,
I'm talking about the
to
one
it.
next to it.
The right
when
next
it's
to
the gas
it.
Station.
Was a
I
gas
know that.
station.
Yeah. Okay. I just didn't, yeah, I remember the gentleman who ran it. I just didn't think it
But
was a Sitco, so.
Maybe it was,
So would a class 3 be possible in a situation
Sorry,
like that?
brain couldn't
So the
go there.
class 3 is the sit-down restaurant.
Oh, I mean, I'm sorry,
Class
you're
one.
talking about the class
It's
1.
one, like.
You're
if it was a
talking about
coffee-
class 1.
If it was a coffee shop, kind of a to-go
A
sort of
little-
market,
Yes.
those spaces seem potentially, that seems like a viable spot for them if they
Yeah.
had the other thing. So
Yeah.
to me, I think NC should permit class 1 restaurants.
Class 1, right?
Class 1.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But, okay. But the parking requirement
The
is gonna,
parking-
is gonna
it's pretty
undo
strict.
anybody.
Yeah,
There's-
it's pretty
yeah,
strict, but
yeah.
And that is what, when you apply for your permit, that you're told how many parking spots you need to have? Okay.
Any commercial development that is not a rehabilitation of an existing commercial use has to come before the planning commission, and we check all of the regulations. and
Right.
So-
Okay, so are we good on all of those now? I think we really opened that whole area up. I think it's great.
Yeah.
Okay, let's turn the page. Let's move it up. Indoor entertainment and recreation. So if you look down below, it tells you what it is above. So indoor entertainment would be not permitted in anything but the TC, PC, MC, and that would be it. Trying to think of any indoor entertainment that we could put up in the NC.
Like a billiards club or that's a.
I mean, could you have a little guitar player in a, in a tasting room, let's just say, and would that be considered indoor entertainment?
So
In a
it-
tasting room? No.
No, so indoor and entertainment is a facility operated as a business providing active or passive recreational entertainment or athletic activities entirely within an enclosed building. It includes facilities for organized sports, instruments, and leisure activities. Noise and visual impacts must be contained within the structure, and it does not include a bar, restaurant, or nightclub. It's like
Okay.
indoor.
axe throwing?
Does anyone play racquetball anymore?
Axe
Like,
throwing.
or a escape room, or a
Escape room is a good example.
laser
I feel like,
tag, or
yeah.
just that kind of
that would
thing.
be a good
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. But is there anything?
Fitzpatrick just had like that. I mean, those are really big facilities, but they've recently had a bunch of stuff open up kind of in that.
In the old Joanne Fabric, I think, is that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very popular too. I like it. Okay. If nobody has any issues with that, we're going to leave it and then move down to outdoor entertainment and recreation. And I guess my question is, in the RC, could we not have some outdoor recreation, entertainment and recreation in the RC?
Mhm.
And I think that should be, I don't know, it's my opinion, but instead of an MP, it could be what would you want to make that?
So outdoor entertainment is a facility operated as business providing recreation or amusement activities conducted in open or partially enclosed structures. So again, same conditions, excuse me, as the indoor with noise and alcohol.
You want to make it SC or SE?
I would stick. I would stick with an SE because there's conditions that are going
Okay.
to apply anyway. But that's that larger conversation about SE versus.
Anybody have any issues with that being SE in the RC, the outdoor entertainment and recreation?
Mm-mm.
So it would be SE in the TC, PC, MC, and RC. All commercial zones except resource conservation. All right, then we have animal care establishment. It's just allowed in the commercial zones. Then we have the alcohol sales and the cannabis business. We're going to review cannabis in a second here, but that looks pretty standard to me, I guess. Any questions about that right now as far as cannabis business in the SCSC? Now, why are alcohol sales not allowed in the TC or NC if there's a little tiny market or something? Or there's a little, I mean, if they decide to change and say, oh, all of a sudden you can have whatever.
My interpretation of the cannabis regulations, and we can check this with the attorney, is that the regulations that apply to alcohol sales also have to apply to cannabis businesses. So the more businesses that you,
Mhm.
and we can double check that because that is my interpretation and I am not a lawyer. But I think wherever you allow alcohol sales, you have to allow cannabis businesses. And that's actually why I put alcohol sales into your zoning code and they weren't there before.
So Rollins is going to have cannabis sales?
Probably not.
Are they
But
too close?
Bill
Are they
was
too
the
close to the school?
Yeah, so therefore there'll be no sales.
that is a good point. Rollins is not too close to the school, I don't think. So they could have cannabis sales. Now, I think there's only 2 licenses for all of Calvert County that were issued this year. So
Oh.
some of that sort of factors in. That doesn't mean you won't have someone's, but you could limit them only to the MC. But then you're also, I believe, backing up your alcohol sales. And if you want to potentially, if you guys want to explore it, I can ask to consult with the attorney on it.
Should we have her consult with the attorney on it? Or are you guys okay with the way it is right now?
Okay.
I'm okay with it.
Everybody's okay? Okay, then we'll leave it as is. Now, on Commissioner Han's behalf, I'm going to pursue the next one, which is craft artisan assembly and manufacturing, because she does do beautiful jewelry work in her house, and I have to say that openly.
Oh, okay.
Commissioner Han.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
But it would not be permitted in this type of, light industrial. So I was talking to our planner about maybe making a second level of creativity type manufacturing, make it a crafting type manufacturing that you can do at home. But I guess you would still consider that a home occupation, wouldn't you?
So what Commissioner Hahn is doing would be considered a home occupation.
That would be considered a home occupation.
She's
Okay.
running, if she's running it as a business, right?
Okay.
If she's doing it for enjoyment, then it's
Pretty much that,
Right.
yes, indeed. So you don't think we then have to divide that up and to make it,
so we could divide it up because right now it's only permitted in the MC. And you probably have some people who are doing some, just regular like craft woodworking. Maybe they're doing some carving. Maybe they're, I don't know, building stools or Adirondack chairs or something in their yard, but there maybe their workshop is bigger than that 40 or 30%. So they can't be a home occupation. But, I think it's this question of, do you want to encourage the ability for people to use their homes to make beautiful things, right? And make economic sense out of their homes. And you could put a major and a minor category there. So where you're using a lot of things that produce odors, right? An Adirondack chair, you're just gluing stuff or you're drilling stuff together, right? So you are making noise. You have to follow noise regulations, but you're not necessarily using a lot of smelly glues and epoxies and that kind of thing. That is usually why you want to keep it in industrial use separate. So I think maybe there's possibility to separate this into 2 categories depending on what you guys want to do.
all right, what is everybody's desire on this one? What do you think? It gets a little complicated. I'm not sure that we want to introduce too much of the way of loud noises or bad smells or chemicals into the community, into the residential communities.
Let's say no noxious byproducts. So the smells aren't a thing. It would
Okay,
just be the sound.
And I can say that can be disruptive. Because,
With the sound.
yeah,
Drills
of a
and et
drill
cetera.
and a sander and an electric saw that goes on for hours.
Dogs go crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that would do
Yeah.
me in for sure.
Your dog. might
Okay,
have
yeah, my
something.
dog would
Is that
be
Kirby?
happy. Kirby, yeah. Okay, then let's move on to automotive service. We have it in the TC. And that would be probably the best place for it is TC. Okay. Marina,
Oh, by the way, I
Yes.
do have one question.
yes.
In terms of, and Sarah, I had a question that under, and I guess it's in the actual written material, not just the chart, but that in the, storage is allowed for automotive services, but not for the craft artisan manufacturing. And I'm not quite sure I understand why, because automotive service, I think if someone's storing boards or paints or whatever, it can't be more noxious than what might be stored for automotive.
Mhm. I can't say why because that's how it currently exists, but there's,
I think that it should
We
be the
could
same for
add it.
both.
So say exactly what you mean again.
Right,
Well, storage is allowed under, I have to find the page.
Storage of cars?
Well, no. Let me just,
What kind of storage?
Well, can you tell me,
hold on one second, I'll
Page.
get to it.
here, automotive services. So under automotive services,
So it's that you,
I have to figure out where, I did not put the page and I apologize.
bulk storage of flammable liquids shall be underground.
No, that I understand, but I was thinking about, maybe it's under,
Inoperative vehicles shall be completely screened from view.
maybe I was on the wrong page. Let me just see. New
It-
fuel pumps.
An area enclosed by a wall or fence screened from view of adjoining properties and rights of way shall be established whenever outside storage is required.
Let me see. Automotive, maybe
Yeah. So whenever outside storage is required implies that outside storage is permitted.
On page 40, are you talking about?
Oh, here. Under craft artisan assembly, it says outdoor storage is prohibited. And I just didn't understand why it's prohibited in one and not in the other.
Mhm.
mhm.
That's my question.
I can't say.
No, I get it. And I
understand
just
why,
think
yeah.
that, I don't,
I think it- Rhetorical. Yeah, I agree.
I mean, as long as it's stored in a way that is not unsightly or creates a hazard with a fire or anything else. I don't know what anyone else thinks about that, but I would just want someone who's doing artisan craft assembly. I don't,
We applied an area enclosed by wall or fence screened from view of adjoining properties and rights of way shall be established whenever storage is required, and bulk storage of flammable liquids shall be underground to the craft artisan. That would feel more equitable to you. Sorry.
So adding this from
oh,
to your, Craft.
which, these things right here.
yeah,
I mean, yes, as long as something's, if it's equitable
so
and reasonable relation,
that would.
that'd be out. And then those,
Yeah.
if you had the same requirements,
Mhm. And I'm not sure underground is the right
no.
solution. I think it's, in a appropriate, I
Container,
need to work out the
Yeah.
language, but fire safety.
right. But I just think there should be something in there so that, if they've got some pallets that they're going to take apart, let's say, or something, they should be able,
Mhm.
they should have some leeway.
I think that's what your proposal is, to add those two things to craft artisan manufacturing and
Okay, I'm a
Question.
little bit confused on what you want to do here. Now, what do you want to do? Tell me
So I
again.
think we were saying that, help me out because
If you look in automotive services
Yes,
and you look at number 7,
which is page 40.
Yes.
Yes.
page 40, and you apply number 7 to,
Yeah, right, because it talks about outdoor storage and it talks about an area enclosed by a wall or fence screened from view.
and we're applying that to the craft artisan assembly manufacturing instead of the outdoor storage is prohibited.
Right. it's allowed, but it has to be screened. I think that's right. So,
Yeah, I'm fine. So you just want to add
yeah,
that
because it's, and take
to-
out, and take
Okay.
out that outdoor storage is prohibited. Yes.
All right, so we'll,
Right, right, right.
okay, so on page
Thank you very
39,
much.
we'll omit outdoor storage is prohibited. And we will instead include
7 from motor services.
7 on page 40, which is an area enclosed by a wall or fence screened from view or adjoining properties, and rights of way shall be established whenever outdoor storage is required. So we'll include that under the craft section. Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have that one down? Do you have that
Mhm.
okay? Okay,
I
good.
did.
Okay, very good.
Nauseam.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm glad we're done with that. Okay. And then, of course, we've got Marina down below. Anybody have any questions about that whole issue, now that we're done there with that? Okay, good.
Hold on. I'm okay with that.
On the next page, we've got aquaculture, seafood, data center, biomanufacturing, marine storage, utilities, commercial solar energy systems, bus transit station. You know, this bus transit station, I know we don't have a station, but you know, these poor people who wait for this little bus right next to our
Yeah.
library
Right.
really angers me. There's nothing for them to stand
I've said that for years.
for this
It just
bus.
You know how some
It's just
people have
terrible.
something for kids
Yeah.
to stand under in
Yeah,
bad
a
weather
little-
while they're waiting
yeah,
for, that's what
exactly.
that needs to
Please
be.
lean to
The ones who- huh?
A little lean
Yeah,
to or
something. But anyway, I think if it wasn't for the fact you have the word station in there, if you could just put bus transit stop, I
You
guess.
just say bus transit without
Okay,
anything
I think we
after
should
it.
eliminate the thing station, and we should include it at any one of the commercial zones for sure. Because we definitely, I mean, that isn't really one of, well, it is the commercial zone. It really right there at the edge. So I don't know, but I think we need to talk to the town council and ask them to put a little lean-to there or something to protect those people from that, the weather,
elements.
the elements,
I'll
exactly.
Also designate for people who don't know where a pickup is, it would designate it
Yes,
for the
yes.
people that might use it but don't know where the
think-
hell
I
it
think-
was.
Yes, I think we need to bring that to the attention of the town council. I'm just surprised it hasn't happened yet, but it would be one of my things I would want to do. So if you take the
permit data
bus
center.
transit and make it P under NC, TC, PC, MC, right?
When you say bus transit, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I'm like station, I understand what a bus or a transit station or depot or something like that, there's a space. But if you just say
Stop.
The stuff should be out of
Yeah.
there.
Stop.
Gotcha.
And then make it P and all those,
And which, and could you?
and
read those
under
slow?
NC,
And see, make
the commercial zones, in my
Okay.
opinion, NC, TC, PC, MC, except the RC. That's
Right.
not a commercial zone.
right, okay.
And make that a P, okay, please?
Can we go back up to the data center? That's permissible.
Okay, let's go back up to the data center. I was afraid there was gonna be one of you who wanted to bring that up. Go ahead.
I'm just curious to know as far as,
It's already permissible in your code. I just provided a definition.
okay.
That doesn't mean you guys can't discuss it and change it. It just means I would recommend that you consider conditions that require the data center to provide solar energy.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that
Energy.
you require the data center to have a
Sound barrier.
enclosed water
Less
system,
messages.
so there's not water loss. There's probably other things that should be that I believe should be conditions for data centers. However, all I did here was provide a definition because you previously allowed them without any of that. And so I think are they a special exception use or are they just permitted?
No, you have P under MC.
Yeah, so that's how you guys have it now.
Strange place.
Um,
where-
And so I
Yeah.
definitely recommend that you consider directing me to provide some conditions.
Okay, let's direct Ms. Franklin to provide conditions for data centers that would include at least what you said and possibly more.
And something about sound, because from what I understand, that's wreaking havoc with people's nervous systems and
That was literally
sleepability.
last night's news.
Pardon me?
That was literally last night's news, the noise. It's
Yeah.
inconceivable, and putting it in the Marine District
Why
seems
would we do
crazy.
that?
Why do we
Why
have
would
to
we do
permit it?
this? That ruins your
Why?
whole like tourism kind of vibe. I mean,
You don't have to permit data centers.
I think we
I
should.
think
Let's make it an NP.
NP.
Yes.
You just said NP.
Here, I'll do it better. NP.
Yeah.
Go ahead and change it to the NP on the data center and let's not have to go there.
doesn't belong anywhere.
Just go ahead and put that as an NP till we hear otherwise.
Just doesn't-
Utilities, I guess we're good with. And garage sales. Okay, now down there, we've got the C and we understand why the C, because we don't want permanent garage sales going on. But we also want to add the temporary uses such as lemonade stands, et cetera, from what I understand. So, well, how would you want to word the lemonade stand?
Yeah, so
So you gotta go get permits to have your lemonade
no, I
stand.
think
So
Scout to be out at the
Girl
curb.
Scout cookies, yeah, there you go.
right, so
I forget permitted allowed. Sometimes when I see it, I think you're saying you required a permit. Okay, good. I'm with you. I'm back with you. I was like, guys, this is ridiculous.
so one of
Stop that.
one of the council members said, what happens if someone wants to have a lemonade stand and they ask you first, right? And the answer is you can't have a lemonade stand, right? And this was on the news like a bunch, I don't know, it feels like a couple years ago, but maybe it was longer than that. A lemonade stand technically is serving beverages, so it should comply with county laws regarding beverage serving. So I will say that. But we can provide a temporary sales category that would like allow kids, I think with regard to beverages, we should say that the beverages have to be served by a minor, non-alcoholic beverages served by a minor, because you don't want like,
An adult to pay their mortgage with lemonade stand.
With vodka in it.
Yeah, right.
right. So I think we just need to word that kind of carefully, but I think for temporary sales, you can allow like, if you grew extra zucchini in your yard, right? And you wanted to stick that out and put money in the box kind of thing. Sometimes kids want to sell their Girl Scout cookies and instead of going door to door, they could set up in their yard, right? Or one of them makes friendship bracelets and wants to sell that kind of thing. That's not really a home occupation because they're just doing it for a limited period of time. And adults may do the same thing, right? If they have a lot of produce. So we can add a temporary sales category. I can bring that back to you guys if
Yeah.
you are in support of that, but
Yeah, I think we all are in support of that.
We are a small town.
We definitely want
Stands
that.
Just
Adorable. And
are
Girl Scouts
of it. And they're nasty.
You're right.
They're nasty tasting, most of them. But
The lemonade. Especially my kids are selling it.
Mosa, don't pick the daisies.
don't make me be the bad guy to the kids.
No. Okay, on the last page is carnival or similar transient enterprise and building incidental to construction. So we have it conditional in the RV1, the carnival in the RV1 because why?
I believe you two right here said you love carnivals. So
Which two?
I believe it is because the school is located.
that's right.
And
think that.
so it says that it must be conducted by a registered nonprofit organization, place of worship, volunteer fire department, or school located within the town. So
That makes a lot more
if
sense.
one of those places found a
Apologize.
willing house in the RV1 with enough space to set up a carnival, I suppose they could, but that feels unlikely. They would just do it on site or off.
Excellent. Okay. And then the building incidental to construction, I think. I don't know.
Oh, that was pre-existing there.
What does it mean?
Yeah, what does it really
Trailer,
mean?
Like if you're, building a house, right?
Yeah.
There's a trailer or something
You
on there.
need to put really a trailer, or if you're going to set up like, I'm not sure why you're setting up a temporary building, but maybe you are when you're developing something commercial. Maybe you have a lot to store, so it's worth a building rather than a trailer. I don't know. I assume this is here because it was something that was needed, right, at some point when these areas were developing.
Okay. All right. Okay, so it looks like so far we're good with the map, sort of. We're good with that. We're good with most of this, and we need a few changes, but you know what they are. The next thing we want to do is we want to go now to the,
Madam Chair, if I could
Yes.
just go back to one more thing, right underneath the data center, there's biomanufacturing that also has.
Is that
a
like
P-
anthrax and stuff? What is that?
the
No, it's
biomanufacturing, yes.
yeah. I'd recommend that being an MP if
What is
it's,
it?
well, if you look at
It's developing COVID all over. Right.
testing, manufacturing, compounding, processing, assembling, packaging, or treatment of chemical, biological, and pharmaceutical products, and it's allowed in the MC Marine.
No, that's
Doesn't-
crazy.
I think that,
I feel
I
like
agree
this is something
wholeheartedly.
that was under data. Yeah.
Yeah, you're currently allowing it. That's
Yeah.
why it's in there. So
I'm just trying to figure out if there's anything with oysters or anything with the
Aquaculture.
aqua. Yeah, I'm just wondering if there's anything there that they were using that for. I can't. What else would we have that here?
Where would, oh, aquaculture has its own.
On page 42.
Yeah, I don't,
Next page. Okay, great.
well,
Would that include like a compounding pharmacy?
no.
Oh, you mean like if,
Like the more like old fashioned
Yeah,
pharmacies,
so-
like,
Yes.
and
They
they do
have.
have some of those and like,
We did have a
Yes.
compounding pharmacy right down here below the old library.
That's right.
yeah.
I don't know what happened to them, but they're not.
Pharmacy?
Where they
They're still
manufacture.
Yeah, well, they compound and they don't manufacture the.
And since they said the word
chemicals.
compounding,
Mhm.
that's why I was like,
Well,
I
that's an
didn't think there was
interesting
a compounding
point.
pharmacy. At some
Are they still there?
Well, Eden Pharmacy is,
That's right now like something that has recently come into it.
Eden Pharmacy is there.
Which one?
Eden Pharmacy.
Compounding pharmacy. It's still there then?
Well, I went there like a month ago,
Where's
but I
that?
can't, it's, where the old library used to be next to the, tea shop.
Underneath the library, the old library.
But I don't know if they're there right this minute, but
Like it has been,
that's why it's in your zoning ordinance and permitted in the MC.
Okay.
That's the answer to that
Should you leave them like an SE, exemption, or is that something I would ask what everyone's recommendation for that thing?
biological.
I just defined it. So what I did was I defined things that so certainly the definition could be changed to only allow compounding and not, but one of the things that I found when I researched that definition was that you wanted to be clear about biosafety levels and what they're requiring. So I think we could certainly say a facility primarily engaged in compounding, process or compounding, assembly, packaging of pharmaceutical products, right? Like we can adjust
Yeah.
the
Sure.
definition so it
Yeah.
includes less stuff, but because I didn't know why it was in there, I just
Yeah,
created a
right.
definition.
the compounding
yes.
pharmacy.
And I
Yeah,
feel
really,
like
it's a
also like
good
in,
thing.
as like and all of those are being at compound pharmacies, like
Yes,
those are.
That's
like,
right.
That's
right.
the kind of place that.
Exactly.
Not
I definitely get on board with that, just like.
Yeah, me too. Definitely right there.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to go over about this that we didn't talk about or we didn't bring up? I think you've got.
I just want to explain a little why solar energy systems is in there is just because the state requires us to have these regulations in place. I used an ordinance that I've written already that highlights everything the state requires to be in that ordinance. And it is exactly to state standards, nothing more, nothing less. I put it in here instead of making us tackle it separately because we are trying to get back to coastal resiliency. And we just need to do what the state wants us to do here with that. So. just
Okay.
make sure no one has a question.
All right. The other thing that you want us to make sure that we do tonight, so I want to make sure we do that next before we go back to the beginning and start, fresh with this. We want to go through the cannabis and solar energy systems section, which are somewhat new to us. And so that would be, if you go to page, make sure that page 44, we're going to look at solar energy systems first. So go to page 44.
Is what you're saying, like, this is just state regulation and we don't really have any control of it. And so like, maybe we don't want to.
For solar energy specifically, there's really not a lot you can change here. What I've drafted is kind of the maximum you can provide. If you want to be more permissive for solar energy systems, then we should have a conversation about it. But if you want to just do what the state says, then we can do this. If you think you want to be more permissive, it may make sense for me to take it back out and for us to bring it up. But let's get a little more into coastal resiliency first before we do.
I just have one question about this. So is this meaning that it's like a solar energy like farm with a whole lot of those panels?
Yes.
Okay.
In the marine section.
Well,
No, isn't that what it?
It does say that.
so
Okay.
yes, so the state, there's state preemption on this. So really, frankly, it doesn't necessarily matter if we permit it or don't permit it anywhere, right? We could keep it out of the land use table, put it in separately, because if solar energy farm comes in a certain place, the state can determine that that solar energy system is going to overrule whatever we have established. And usually that's happening with agricultural uses. So
I'm not sure
Yeah, I'm not-
what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm not getting this.
The location, they can change the location from a place where we don't want it.
yes.
Now, Jan, you understand that?
I understand that clearly.
Yes. Okay.
So
That
we
was your
could take
question,
the-
wasn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
So we could take this out of this section, out of the land use table, right? And put it in its own ordinance and just adopt it separately and make it part of it would kind of just go at the back of the zoning ordinance or wherever we have space reserved for it. But these are the rules that they have around solar energy systems because they are.
We
trying to
realize towns are
protect-
going to be resistant, but they're saying the need for solar energy trumps towns' desire to have it.
Yes, so it was a court
I
case.
sort of get that,
Then led
but
to that.
it's the marine.
Yeah,
once
yeah, it's
again,
like, why
the
would- why
marine,
would we-
but why
why would that
not
be
put
good?
it in,
No space.
Well, if they wanted to put it somewhere else, they would, is what I think Sarah's saying, right?
Yeah.
So like, we could say it's permitted in all of them because of the state or not.
I think
permitted.
we should say,
We could just take it out of the table, right, and take it out of this category and put it elsewhere. I was just trying to get it done.
I could make it prohibited everywhere and then they'll do what they do, but we've at least evidenced what we feel. I mean,
So you can't make it prohibited.
oh,
or
okay, there is that.
You
Okay.
can't make it.
can't what?
You can't. It has to be permitted. It can't be a special condition. It can't be a special exception. It can't be any of that. It has to be permitted. So the reason I put it in
Really?
the marine was just to say like, hey, we're permitting it in the marine. So if you want to do it, that's where you got to do it. Otherwise, you can't do it.
I could see Rod and Reel putting up solar panels on their top of
On
their roof.
roof.
On the,
Right.
on the parking area very easily.
Yes, and they might generate, because this is a commercial generating system, right?
They're not going to share.
Oh, but I think,
No, they wouldn't share that.
well, and they could,
wouldn't have
then
enough.
they
It would
could
be
do that
commercial.
now.
They wouldn't have enough to share.
Right.
They could easily do that. They do that, I think, the West all the time.
But does that not then kind of add to the height? Don't we have some, does that like supersede?
It's going to be like the roof over a car, so it actually wouldn't be a big,
Oh, it wouldn't be a
it
big.
wouldn't be a big
profile
height.
change.
No, it's just a pole with a solar panel on top and
Okay.
you park underneath it. It's kind of like the roof, so it's not a
Okay.
big deal.
Okay.
And that wouldn't be a commercial solar energy system. So they would just be, that's just energy use right now. Anyone who comes in with solar panels is getting approved for their solar panels because they're like your HVAC system. You know, they're coming in for this permit so they can get a permit from the county, but there's no regulations regarding where you can put your solar panels. So if they wanted to put solar panels to power part of the hotel, that wouldn't be subject to these requirements. Frankly, there's nowhere to put solar energy systems in the town of Chesapeake Beach, but the state is requiring us to have these regulations. The critical area, remember, asked us to put these regulations in the critical area zone because of all the state preemption and because of all the court cases. If preemption happens in a zone that it's not permitted in Chesapeake Beach, at least you have protections in your code. And that's really what it is. We don't expect this to happen, but we want you to have protection if it does.
Did you just say that the critical area, the resiliency, the coastal resiliency, no, critical, you said something about they wanted it to be in the,
So the critical area, remember we had said something about, we had taken out their solar regulations and they said, please put these back in because what they're doing is they're protecting you from large scale solar should it come in. So say, I don't know, say a large scale solar wanted to come in somewhere in a zone where we have space for it, but we don't permit it. And we told them no, because we would. And then it turned into another court case like the one in Washington County. And we lost that court case. At least we have all these protections, right?
but how is it a protection if they,
Because of
Yeah.
how they would have to build.
No, I
because
understand.
It's a low.
no, I get that, but
Yes.
if it's in an area, I understand that it's limitations on what they can do. But so in other words, they get to be they can be a bully potentially and say, I'm here. And then we can just say, here's what the confining details.
If the state approves them to
Okay.
be there. So the state is going to say, okay, well, you are permitted to be in this area, but you're not permitted to be where you're asking to be. And I can't say what's going to happen. Like, I mean, I hate to say that, but with solar energy, what the case in Washington County was that the state's goal to develop this solar energy is more important or trumps the local goal of agricultural preservation, I think, in that case. And so the state developed these regulations around this.
It's not agriculture. Okay.
It was in the Washington County
Oh.
case. And
Right.
so then the state developed this set of regulations with regard to solar and has required jurisdictions to adopt it. Now, I think you really only come into this if you annex somewhere, most likely. But I'm just trying to think of like what farm you would annex. I think this is fairly irrelevant unless
Somebody wants to come
something
here.
unless something happens where there's another court case that is going to preempt your ability to restrict it in zoning, which right now you are allowed to restrict it per state law. Because there's so much state preemption around everything, I think it's best to have these regulations in place. Because if you don't, then
No, I get that. but
yes.
Can we put it in another, I mean,
which zone do you want to put it in?
well, of course none, but I mean, it seems like, I mean, when I drive to Charles County on Route, I guess it's 5, in Hughesville, there's a huge solar farm. And it just seems like you need a lot of land for, I guess, for a company to make it worthwhile. And is the thought then that we're saying, sure, put it here because it's not going to be enough land to put it here?
I mean, there's almost nowhere in town that there would be enough land. So
right.
you have to say somewhere.
Think of a-
So you have to pick somewhere. So that's as good of a place to pick unless you have a better suggestion.
Because it's not really.
Do the RC, and then that'd be the
That's
end of
what
the
I was
RC.
No.
going to say.
They're going to take the RC.
Yeah,
away.
I wouldn't put in the RC.
I know.
That's,
That's
then
a
they
fight
still
worth
use that.
having.
Yes.
The marine commercial has limited land that has a lot of economic potential. And so, sure, solar energy systems generate income, and there are other ways to generate income in the marine commercial. And that is why I chose to locate it in the marine commercial.
okay. All right. I think that satisfies.
Be good. Okay, let's quickly go to cannabis, which is on page 38. And what do you have to tell us about cannabis? Anything that we?
So,
Doesn't really.
with regard to the
maintain-
cannabis, the boundary limitations are determined by state law. You get to choose if you want to allow on-site consumption or not, but since you don't want to allow it at all, I figured you did not want to allow on-site consumption. You can limit the hours of operation if you would like to limit the hours of operation for alcohol. I think I changed them to liquor sales, but alcohol sales, and I'll get that language consistently, but you have, that one I know, that's not an interpretation. So if you're going to limit the hours of cannabis, then you have to limit the hours of alcohol sales and they have to be the same.
So you say alcohol sales,
You see, would not appreciate limitations. Is that it?
I do not want you to take any hours of alcohol sales away.
Need, we keep indeed. Okay. Did everybody get a chance to read all the green words? And it's not just because green and weed, I got it. Okay, so is there anything else that we
You
need to?
said you couldn't tell the difference between the blue.
Yeah, right. Okay, I think we are pretty much understanding the cannabis dispensary. All right, so if we go back to, we've only got 10 more minutes. One thing I would like to ask, remember when we all were talking about needing a permit and not needing a permit, and there would be some things you may not need a permit for, such as lemonade sales. I was wondering if you would be all okay with allowing Ms. Franklin to put an asterisk near all the uses that would need permits and hence not have us go through all that ordeal. Would you be okay with her doing it, bringing it back next time, we review it, make sure that we're good with the fact that, some things need, permits and some things do not, and she'll let us know. Is that okay? She will do the identification. One more thing on your homework.
Okay.
Boy, there's that. Okay, so that's good. can we go ahead and do 10 minutes of going through this and just slogging through this entire draft? The first 2 pages, we're going to have, again, this is going to be her homework to maybe rewrite some of it. Do you think you're going to rewrite all of it or just a couple of them? Like are you just going to do 290-9?
I would like to have open the option to rewrite all of 290-9 in a more modern way that maybe moves away from some of the things that are causing the state preemption concerns.
Yes. Okay, good. So that means that we're going to start on 2010, and that is on page 11. And basically, it's just the descriptions of what the land use classifications table is all about, the PC, SE, SC. We're not changing any of that. Is that what we're going to keep that, right? Or what are we doing with that?
So I didn't recommend any changes to that,
Okay.
but previously the 290-11 was called standards for and conditions for conditional uses or something like that.
Mhm.
And so you needed to have a C for conditional use and an SC for when you had a special exception, but the Board of Appeals should look for the conditions.
Yeah.
But now every use has a definition, and in that definition are inherently conditions. And so I'm not sure that you actually need to say that it's a conditional use or that it's I definitely don't think you need to say SC, like special exception with conditions, because the Board of Appeals is going to have to go look at that definition. So I think you can make all the SCs SEs. I think you could make all the Cs Ps, but I would like to talk to the attorney about that before I definitively say that.
Okay, so we're going to hold on 290-10 as well then. You're going to come back to us with that as well.
Can I just ask, should that also have a number saying, the asterisk on the table means if we're gonna,
Right.
The asterisk, is that how you're going to indicate it, with an asterisk?
whatever you use, I think it should
However
be.
I
Okay.
separate them, I will.
Okay,
You'll put something here under the, okay, great.
Yeah.
okay, so on 290-11, the one thing, if you turn to page 12, am I not correct in thinking that principal is with a PLE and it's not the PAL that comes to the school?
Where are you? What
By
line?
definition, you're right.
What line are you on? Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
all principal, because there's a couple principals in here and they're PALs.
We used to learn a principal is your pal.
Only if you have good grades and you're not being,
I think I looked this up.
Oh, and the PAL has
Because-
another definition?
it can't be.
So PLE is kind of like a rule that you follow or a guideline that you follow.
Right.
Okay.
A principal
Oh,
is like
main.
the main
Yeah. she's
thing.
right.
Principal, okay,
right.
all right then, that doesn't need
So
to
it
be
is an
changed. Good.
A.
Okay, so that will
Yes.
keep then, thank you. Okay, I stand
Good.
corrected, good.
First order of importance.
Okay, then we go to number 2, the overlay and floating districts. I don't think we need anything changed there, unless you have any concerns. Number B, prohibited uses in all districts. Okay, now, let's talk about that.
Yes.
Do we want to prohibit all of these in, what about smoke and vape shops? Do we want to put that anywhere?
No.
What about, how about recreation camps and cottages? Could those go to the RC? On a seasonal basis? What are your thoughts?
Read more on that, would it?
On number
But you
10,
could say in the research, in the RC, that somebody could put up like a small structure as a seasonal camp.
yep.
I think
Or maybe maybe even have tents that are, they come up in the season, they go down in fall and you're done. Something like that. But to utilize the RC.
I think we've got to, throw RC a bone, and that seems
That's
like.
what I wasn't actually calling it that, but I'm thinking that might not be a bad idea. So does anybody have any issues with that, or could you come up with something that would fit in an RC?
Yes, so I think that it would need to be limited in the amount of the area it could take over. It would I would recommend it be outside of the 0.2% chance floodplain, given things that
Yes.
are happening.
Yes, thank you. Thank
and,
you.
And so that's more strict than the 1% floodplain. So I can come up with some regulations to make
could
it
be,
lower
like,
impact.
temporary
But yes,
structures Too, like nothing that would even be a permanent structure, but that if somebody wanted to buy that and be able to bring an RV for the season or something like that, that wasn't staying there.
I can come up with some stuff for that to present to you next time.
And then number 11, non-residential parking in a residential district. It seems to me like there might be some situations, if we have that carnival at the school, that we might need to have parking in residential areas.
Mhm.
Just for a 2-hour or 3-hour period, and I just am not certainly want to make it a prohibited situation entirely, but can we make it a very temporary situation if need be?
It could go on. Do you want to move this under temporary uses?
What does everybody think? I think it should, just to give us the flexibility in a town that has no parking. I think we should, if we want any kind of a,
And question, when it says non-residential parking, so if someone's coming to visit someone, but they're not a resident,
you're talking about a mass amount of parking now. They're talking about not just one person. They're talking about, well,
I'm just saying.
Like back for the neighborhood with getting into the beach, is that part of it?
It's talking about, say, someone, for example, in the NC paving their residential property for a parking lot that is charging fees
Oh, yeah.
all the time.
oh, yes. I agree.
So, I mean, we could leave it in here and say permanent non-residential parking in our non-residential parking in a residential parking district. And then we could also add it to the temporary
Yeah,
uses.
I mean, I think we might consider that. Make it a very temporary
Right.
during special event situation.
Mhm.
Okay. And then the rental of automobiles. Sometimes it really seems like we need an area where we could rent an automobile here. I don't know. And do you need more than three cars to, to hang out in a rental facility? And you could have it in one of the, I don't know, maybe up there at that poor Unoco station that we want to do so much with.
We might bet bicycles or something. Or
But I mean, everybody needs rides. Their car breaks down. You want to rent a car, huh?
My neighborhood, be very
We
careful.
do everything in your neighborhood. I want to tell you right now, Jim.
I'm going to start renting out the parking spaces behind me.
Exactly.
Not permitted except for under a temporary use.
I mean, does anybody
Except for the
see?
carnival.
Yes.
Now we're getting silly. Does anybody see a need to have car rentals in the community anywhere? You don't, okay, he says no, you say no, okay, fine. What about casino gambling? What is going on there? Do we not have gambling in this town?
It's not technically gambling. Yeah.
It's not called casino
You
gambling.
don't have
What's it
casino
called?
gambling. You have
We have slots and for-profit bingo. And
Okay,
those are
very
people-
good.
Those are non.
Casino is like for the table games. Is that more what it is? Okay.
And we don't want any drive-through windows anymore? Did we decide against drive-through windows?
You decided you wanted drive-through
And
windows
it's
because you
about
were
the
really sad
Seabury
when I
with
told you that I had a
Parkinson
coffee
We
shop
used to
now.
have them.
I like the idea of a drive-through window myself. Does anybody mind putting drive-through windows back in?
I don't see a problem.
I don't see a
What about drive-through windows?
Not allowing to windows.
No, I mean allowing the possibility of having
It's
a,
lined out.
okay, so we are going to keep that in a, okay, good, okay. Residential uses, we're going to go ahead and a building container. we're going to go ahead and rename, or we're going to
We're going to look at
Term that, okay.
renaming those. Yes.
all right. A townhouse dwelling, does it have to have 4 or more, or can it have 3 or more? It has to have 4 or more?
I think it could have 3 or more. That House or Senate bill that we were worried about did not cross over. So it doesn't look like it, but that doesn't mean it can't cross over. So I would prefer to wait on those definitions until after, I think it's April 13th, which
Okay.
is Sine Die.
Okay, so there we go. Now turn the page. I know it's 8 o'clock, but let me commit into. Well, okay, just give me just let me get to a finishing end here. Is there a finishing point here? There isn't any place to finish, is there? Okay, let me just keeps going on and on.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right, so did you hear what he just said about that? What,
It's permitted in the same places or it's defined in the same, yeah. It's permitted in the same places as, and not permitted in the same places as multifamily dwellings, yes.
You think it's duplicative? Is that what?
A multifamily is different, it's defined different. But I think the question is, should you permit them in more zones? Am I wrong?
What was, I'm not sure what the question was.
Is the question, should you permit them in more zones or?
What was your question, Larry?
Yeah,
You're saying.
well, I mean, I don't know. I just was asking.
Duplexes too, and then it just does seem that.
Yeah, duplex is 2. You could have a triplex.
Yes.
It is confusing.
Thing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
yeah.
You say you could
I
merge
so.
those two together.
So do you see
Yeah.
we're on number 4?
Yes, but I think it's the definition of multifamily dwelling. That's the problem. Because a multifamily dwelling is like in the same unit, whereas the townhouse is separate single family homes that are attached to each other. So I think it's the definition that needs work, not the allowing it.
Multifamily dwelling sounds kind of like an apartment building, right?
Right. And so you can have, I think you do have a couple of homes that are apartment buildings. They have like maybe 3 or 4 units in them. I'm pretty sure you have at least one because
Would multifamily be a duplex?
no, that would be single family attached. A triplex, a duplex, a quad, that's all going to be single family attached. So townhome is really kind of like a single family attached more than it's like a multifamily.
Is
Hmm.
the building that's like over by the marina.
Oh, I know.
Like over by Abner's.
Abner's.
It's like Harbor Motel.
Oh,
but
yeah,
it's
that's
not
an
like a
apartment,
motel
that's an
anymore. Yeah.
apartment place.
What a view.
So you do have some-
Saying that 3 towns, 3 homes, single family homes attached townhouses. There isn't a definition there to cover that.
So I think your definitions,
Multifamily.
no, because it's
Okay, so it's not multifamily.
Right. yes, so that your townhouses are just,
No, a single family attached, a building containing 2 or 3 attached dwelling units,
Oh,
which
there
is
you
right,
go.
right? Isn't
We've
that
never
right?
altered
Yeah.
the numbers.
so you don't allow a quad, right? So the reason you have these,
Just need to check this.
I do need to
So
work on the
it's a gap.
definitions.
Right.
And
yeah.
because the state may have been feeding us a definition, I did not want to spend time working on a definition and then get fed a different one by the state. But we'll know on April 13th whether they're.
I see it as covered, you don't.
So a multifamily, I'm sorry to belabor this. A multifamily is not a condominium development. It's not a condo.
It is.
It is.
Okay.
So, okay, that's where you have a common entry. So you have a building containing 2 or more dwelling units on a single lot, having a common roof and a common entry.
Right.
But could it also be an apartment building where you have separate entries. We have outside entries and you're, like a
Like a
hall,
hotel that,
like a
motel that's
hotel
been,
that,
Well,
like-
those townhouses in Harbor, those rental units that are townhouses, is that what you're saying? They have,
I'm trying to think if we have them here.
You're talking about a garden apartment.
yeah.
Or something like that, yes. But you can have, I mean, I know because I own one, you can have a condominium with with separate entrances.
Yeah, so that can be,
So the common entry thing does not apply, in my opinion,
right.
necessarily. So can you also change the definition of that as well?
I'm going to work on the definitions of all of the housing. I did not want to do any of that
Okay.
if we were going to be given different rules entirely.
Okay.
And so I'd like to be sure that we're not
Okay.
being given different rules entirely.
Okay.
first.
Okay, perfect. So I think then we should probably stop at where? Should we stop here at dwelling accessory, or where should we stop, Ms. Franklin, would be a natural place to stop?
I think you've been through everything after that. Well, I would advise that everyone, review because we are on a timeline, right? I need what I am delivering to you in April really needs to be very close to what you're going to hold a public hearing on, because you have to have your public hearing in May to meet the town council's deadline. So what I would say is, if you have other comments about other areas of this, reach out to me. We can arrange meetings. You can just email me your comments, however you want to do it, so that what I get to you in April is
we have
ready.
to approve it.
Not necessarily, we can still make changes, but we have to make those changes quickly so that the public hearing draft can be published in enough time for the residents to view it before your public hearing in May.
So we've got our homework to make sure we understand and like everything that we had tonight. We have to make sure we hold on to that, protect it with your life.
And I don't even.
Bring any questions. You can email Ms. Franklin with any of your questions. Does everybody have your email address? I'm assuming they do.
Everyone should. I think you all have my phone number too. However is best for you to reach out to me. It is a cell phone, so you can even text me.
Anything else the only other thing that I want to do is make sure we have council, I shouldn't say council, I should say commissioner comments. But is there anything before we leave? Did you want to say one more thing about any of this work we've got to do?
I mean, I can just tell you that the accessory dwelling units, the guidance from the state is not the interpretation that I had of the state law. So I am working with the attorneys on how best to handle that. And so we probably will want to have a good chunk of time to discuss what comes from that tomorrow or next month. I do believe we may need to ultimately make more changes to it, but I think it would be good to try to get it in here, because we have to have the regulations in place that match the state requirements by October. And again, we want to get to coastal resiliency and protecting people that are in the
Right.
vulnerable areas.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you. Let's do quickly some commissioner comments. Commissioner Smith, anything?
I have nothing.
Commissioner Greisman, you have anything?
I've done enough.
You have anything over here?
Yes.
Anything? I have one thing, and that is that I'm seeing some properties go up for sale in the community. And, way back when we were doing the comprehensive plan, we talked about having to purchase properties in order to make more parkland out of it, more tot lots or senior tot, they have now parks for seniors that you can do different equipment. Anyway, we have a couple properties that are in pretty good locations for parks. One right here on 260 coming into town. There's one right off the highway. Just a little bit of an idea to put into somebody's head about maybe purchasing some land for parks, because as we know from our comprehensive plan, that's one thing we're lacking is
Indeed, we are.
park properties. And of course, Heritage was built without having any kind of a tot lot or anything in that particular community. So that house for sale is right near that community. And that's why I brought that up, is that all those kids could then use it or whatever. And it's a pretty good location. So that would be the one comment I would have for tonight. But anyway, thank you all for helping us out with this tedious topic. And do I have a motion to
Motion to-
adjourn? Yes, yes.
Are we making any kind of motions for the zoning map?
I wasn't going to do it until we know, because I keep thinking we're going to be tweaking things. I don't know why I keep thinking that, but
I think if we can kind of make a motion on both items next time.
I'd like to
Further
wait because
finalization.
it seems like we're going to have some things come up. So yeah, no motion as of yet tonight. Yes. Do you have a question, Jan?
Nobody seconded, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, everybody,
No,
we had a motion
I
to
don't want
adjourn.
anybody second.
Okay, good.
Regarding properties
Yes.
that are up that could be a park, 14th Street and C Street, I think you know about that, Sarah? You come down across from the school is 14th Street. At the very end on the left-hand side was a condemned house, and there was some noise about, well, that'd be a perfect place for a little park. You know, it's close to the bay. It's, you know, it's a bad corner anyway. And I thought there was some noise about use. Do you know anything
No,
about that?
I don't know anything about that actually,
Yeah,
but
that's a horror show.
I know, you
right
know, when
there.
these things pop up, we need to, if we had any cash in the bank, we should
I
grab.
agree with you.
But anyway, so yes.
Well, I will tell you that your town administrator said my favorite thing ever, which is we have all these plans and let's make sure we implement them. So can you please provide me with a list of everything we need to do to implement them? And so I am working on that for her. And so I will make sure that that gets in there.
Perfect.
So
That's great. Thank you. Okay, so I do have a motion on the floor and do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
And nobody is saying no to that, so we will end this meeting. Thank you very much, everybody. Good night. It's been lovely.
Here's your hat. What's your hurry? He's my mother likes.
Yeah, really, exactly. Oh, here's mine.
The school.
I screwed it up. It's.
This is a little 14th Street.
This thing-
Dead end.
Oh, yeah.
C Street.